Kunja Bihari.
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Gopi Janna Vallabha Girvaradari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradari.
Gopi Janna Vallabha Girvaradari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradari.
Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
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 Thank you very much. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militanyena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much for coming to the program today. All members of the ISKCON Stouffville crew. Audible, thank you. I think the last time I came was before the winter set in, and so I'm happy to be here as often as we possibly can. Today we're looking at chapter 7 from the Bhagavad Gita, and this is called Knowledge of the Absolute, and it's text number 16. So in this publication, it's page 324. Okay, and I'll just go through the Sanskrit. Please give me the time frame that you want us to work with here.
6:15.
6:15.
Including question and answers. Including questions and answers.
Questions and answers. Okay, great. I'll have lots of questions. All right. Chaturvida bhajante mang.
Chaturvida bhajante mam.
Jana sukriti Arjuna.
Jana sukrito Arjuna.
Arto jignasur artarati.
Arato jignasur artati.
Jnani cha bharatarshabha.
Jnani cha bharatarshabha.
And just we'll go through the word by word. Chaturvidha.
Chaturvida.
4 kinds of. Bhajante.
Bhajante.
Render services.
Render services.
Mam.
Mam.
Anjami.
Anjami.
Jana.
Jana.
Persons.
Persons.
Sukritinaha.
Sukrita.
Those who are pious.
Those who are pious.
Arjuna.
Arjuna.
O Arjuna.
Arjuna.
Artaha.
Artaha.
The distressed.
The distressed.
Jignasuhu.
Jignasu.
The inquisitive.
The inquisitive.
Arti.
Arti.
One who desires material gain.
One who desires material gain.
Jnani.
Jnani.
One who knows things as they are.
One who knows things as they are.
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
Also.
Bharata Urshava.
Bharata.
O great one amongst the descendants of Bharat.
O great one amongst the descendants of Bharat.
And here's the translation. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Oh, best among the Bharatas, you could say that.
O best among the Bharatas,
4 kinds of pious men
4 kinds of pious men
begin to render devotional service
begin to render devotional service
unto me.
unto me.
The distressed,
The distressed,
the desirer of wealth,
the desire of wealth,
the inquisitive,
the inquisitive,
and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute.
and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute.
And purport by His Divine Grace H.H Bhaktimarga Swami Prabhupada. Unlike the miscreants, there are adherents of the regulative principles of the scriptures, and they are called Sukritinaha, or those who obey the rules and regulations of scriptures. The moral and social laws and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Out of these, there are 4 classes of men or people. Those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are sometimes inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching after knowledge of the absolute truth. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for a devotional service unto different conditions. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for a devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for material profit. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 defines pure devotion thus: Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. When these 4 kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them, devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with a pure devotee, also become pure devotees. Those who are always busy with fruitive activities come to the Lord in material distress, and at the same time associate with pure devotees and become in their distress devotees of the Lord. Those who are simply frustrated also come sometimes to associate with the pure devotees and become inquisitive to know about God. Similarly, when the dry philosophers are frustrated in every field of knowledge, they sometimes want to learn of God, and they come to the Supreme Lord to render devotional service and thus transcend knowledge of the impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma, and come to the personal conception of Godhead by the grace of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotee. On the whole, when the distressed, the inquisitive, the seekers of knowledge, and those who are in need of money are free from all material desires, and when they fully understand their material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. As long as such a purified stage is not attained, devotees in transcendental service to the Lord are tainted with fruitive activities, the search for mundane knowledge, etc. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of pure devotional service. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for listening. I'm just going to take this off. Okay. Today, then, we're looking at different kind of motives that are there, found in people who come to God. Last week, I believe you discussed the 4 kinds of people that just don't make the grade and who just want to be stubborn and difficult, and as in, a derogatory term in the 80s, behosers. Have you ever heard that term before? Behoser? Okay, just means a loser. And So anyways, it goes like this. Namang duskritino mudha parapadyante naradama maya aparitagyana asuram bhavam asrita. Can you hear me okay? You looked at that in depth, and today we're looking at people who are somehow they're making their way on the path. So the first one, out of the four, chatu means four, right? And so we have those who are in distress. And if you look at the word by word, arta, people are in distress or stressed out. That's the common term. And I was in India, I think it was 30 years ago, and I heard a man who was running a food stall who said, "I'm stressed out, Prabhu." I never thought I'd hear somebody in Delhi say that, who's making some money, stressed. And I also heard a sister-in-law of mine, whose daughter, she was just maybe about 7 years old or 8 years old, said, "I'm stressed, Mom." And her reply was, "No kids at age 7 or 8 are stressed." But now, fast forward, it's a common part of life now. People say it all the time. They're admitting to it. And, I guess there was a time when maybe you were a little stressed, but you held yourself to it and you just kept going and you didn't give up. When people start saying stressed out, it means they're almost giving up. They're ready to say, I'm packing my bags and I'm going to throw in the towel or whatever the phrases are, right? This is probably the most common type of person who come to God consciousness. People who are having a tough time in life, whatever the turn it takes. There's so many things that people get stressed by, multiple reasons, and relationship issues, could be financial. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Just worries about the exams, just losing your job. There's multiple reasons for this taking place. But if you are a little bit smart, you will go to God, and God will solve a lot of problems for you. You just have to go a little internal, start implementing what we call vandanam, prayer, and even if it's not with material motives, God might lead you there, okay? So that's one kind of, the other person is one who's desiring to establish themselves in this world. And the financial issues. People have a lot of financial problems since COVID. We're all hearing about how the prices of everything's gone up. A house that was 400,000 or 500,000 is shot away of, and I mean, when I was a kid, growing up, when I was like 15, we heard about millionaires, either an asset or a lucrative money, in the bank. And if somebody has that much money, they're really, really wealthy. But now it's nothing, right? Many houses are up for like $1 million. So, but the stress factor is there. Properties are up, building materials are up, labor costs are up, everything like ridiculous. It's a problem when if it's a big jump, a big leap as it is now. But if there's like incremental, like say escalation, incremental, like slow and gradual, then maybe people can live with it. But when it jumps like that, it creates a lot of stress, And I'm sure, like one of our sad stories of today, a lot of homeless people that you find in a lot of our cities now, all over the world, not just in North America, but in Europe, all the developing countries. They have this, it's a big, big problem now. It's a big issue. And some of it's driven by mental imbalance, some of it is drug taking, and some of it is, most definitely, they lost their house. They lost their house, and so they have to settle for a tent. Yeah, in the cold climates. In fact, I was really surprised. I made a trip to Winnipeg, and it's some people nickname it Winter Peg, you know, Winter Peg, and what do they call it? Manitoba. It's a nice city. I like it a lot. How do you go? You're the one. Murdunga, you ran away with. Okay, and but there's a lot of people along the Assiniboine River. They're all got their little, plastic houses with tarpaulins and everything. And I asked my friend Doug, how is this possible that these people can live here? And but they are. It's just a growing issue, tent cities. But if people can swing the wrong way, you know what the problem is? When people are in a distress condition, they resort to the bottle, they resort to the drugs, and do all the wrong things. But why not try the clean approach? Go to God, and the government does oftentimes offer programs. A lot of people are not so prone to do that, or they find they're not competent to take these different channels. So that's the one kind of person. And then there's the inquisitive people. I remember one girl came to our temple on Avenue Road, and that was about 1976 or 77. We just got the new building, and she was a local girl. Said, "Oh, gee, everything's so beautiful. The smells of the incense, and what does this mean, and what does that mean?" Very inquisitive, curious about everything. We do have people that traditionally fit into these categories. Those who are curious. The Kumaras were curious. They were meditating, and while they were meditating with their eyes closed, they smelled tulsi leaves. And where's that fragrance coming from? And they saw the tulsi leaves were situated at the feet, these big lotus feet of Vishnu. So who is that person, So they got very excited about that, and they became very inquisitive to the point where they were in one level of self-realization, Brahman realization, Paramatma realization. Now they had come to the next level. There's other examples of in distress. Gajendra, the elephant. Have you ever seen those African, flicks of, the elephants are enjoying in the water, and then a crocodile comes and slams his jaws on the hose, the trunk of an elephant, and as he's in distress, and that is a very sensitive spot, the trunk for the elephant. And so it was Gajendra, who was, in a previous life of pious soul, and he was now in distress. He was enjoying the waters, the cooling waters in a lake with a number of Matajis, female elephant Matajis. Is that okay to put that right? And then, one of his legs got caught in the jaws, and he was actually fighting for his life. And as Prabhupada explains very appropriately, that in the water, the crocodiles are dominant, but on the land, it's the elephants, they do better, And so the struggle went on, and it looked like he was, getting weak, weaker and weaker. And so Vishnu, who responded to the prayers of Gajendra, came down on the back of Garuda and then released his chakra, and that decapitation is oftentimes it's a Vedic concept, I guess. And so that Gajendra was released from the clutches of the personality, the let's say, the naughty crocodile. And you know, crocodiles, they have a right to live, right? Everyone should be eating, you know. We cannot blame animals, you know, in one sense. We can't blame them. An animal in the wilderness will say, oh, here's a saint, I can't eat a saint. There's no discernment there. There's no discretion there, you know. I'm hungry, and that's all that I know. And I smell blood, and I'm going for it, you know. And no one can stop that. The predator, you know, over the prey. So that's the example of one who was in distress, one who was in need of wealth. I think we could give the example of Dhruva Maharaj. He was a 5-year-old boy, and he had a desire to show wealth. He was mistreated by his stepmother, and very coldly, she said, you can't play with the king. 2 boys, princes, they were trying to play with their father. The older boy, Uttama, no problem there. But the one who was a little bit younger, born of another wife, the wife not as favored by the king, Uttanapad was his name. So this boy, Dhruva, did not have the privilege. So he was restricted from play, and for children to play with their daddies, it's a big deal. It's a big thing in your life. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, your daddy's the horsey back, and you know, and he tickles you. Mothers, I know it's Mother's Day. Mothers don't tickle kids. I think fathers do, right? Is that, do you a little tickle? Well, let's put it this way. Fathers tickle more vigorously. You know? They dig in more. Fathers do all kinds of things with the kids. They throw them up in the air, and there's, oh, and they just catch them just in time. Yeah, and so it was Dhruva, who was told by his stepmother, Suruchi was her name, you cannot enjoy the pleasures with your father, because I'm the chosen one. And if you want to have fun with your father, first you'll have to die. And then you'll have to be born into my womb, and then you'll have the privilege. So for a young child at the age of 5, that's really, you can't get colder than that, you know. There was a song in the Broadway production Hair, and it's called Easy to Be Hard. I don't know if you ever, easy, how can people be so ruthless? How can easy to be hard? So in Kali Yuga, it's easy to be hard. You can do anything. Of course, this story is from Satyuga, and people were already, you know, for, let's say, broadcasting what is to come. It's easy to be hard, and it's takes more effort to be nice and loving, isn't it? Easy to be cruel. Dhruva then was very upset, and he went to his own mother, the one that was less favored by the kings, and Mom, I'm very hurt. I don't know what to do. I'm so angry. I'm so distressed. Yeah. So then he says, I want to prove myself that I am someone. In time, I want to have a kingdom that exceeds the opulence of the demigods, of the devatas like Brahma. And so this is what I want. Is there any place that I can go where I can get what I want? Yes, well, you know, sometimes you can get what you want with the yogis, you know, those rishis. I said, where do I find them? So they usually hang out in the forest. So he went to the forest and he performed austerities, but his motive first was, let me gain a kingdom that will prove that I'm somebody. I can get things done. And so he had the strong, fiery Kshatriya spirit, right? By Krishna's grace, he met Narada Muni, and Narada Muni saw this very strong tendency in him as like a warrior child, you know, and he felt for him, and he gave him a mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and with that, he was able to move to the next level. Eventually, he had darshan of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So it's a great story. Now, after he did 6 months of severe tapasya, he came out kind of clean. Whatever desires he had, went behind him. And he just was thinking, well, I feel very clean now. I feel very pure. I don't have the same drive. Like I want vengeance. I want to, let's say, have this revenge against everyone. Do you remember after the pandemic, people started driving, flying, spending like ever? What did they call it? The revenge travels or something like that. Everyone felt bad about the lockdown, and then after, we'll show you who we are. Unfortunately, the prices for flying went up like everything else. So Dhruva came out kind of clean, and he got purified. He was no longer vengeful. And he admitted, formerly I was, looking for something. I was looking to achieve. I was driven in a kind of selfish way. I see now that I thought it was a diamond I was looking for, but I know now it's just a piece of broken glass. Right. I heard someone tell that story, one of the sannyasis, my godbrothers. Maharaj, did they have glass in the Vedic times? He said, he's a wonderful godbrother of mine. His name is Bhakti Chaitanya Swami, said, and he's from the UK. Well, he said, I'm not sure if they had glass, but they did have the technology for having cold drinks. Okay, that's an answer. Yeah, and so that was beautiful. So we covered 3 different kinds of people that have agendas, motives, and we can think of many situations like that in our modern day context, I know a lot of people who came to Krishna because of prasadam. And I'm not talking about just hippies. Like a very outstanding person who's had a good position and with his job, with his work. He said he admitted, I've come to Krishna because of the prasadam, the food. Food got me here. I said, are you sure? That's your story? Absolutely. And wherever we do food for life distribution, prasadam distribution, some people do come around and they come and say, they take interest through the tongue. They come to Krishna through the tongue then. And that is what enthuses them. Now the last person or kind of person to come to God consciousness is the person who's just in knowledge. It's a lot of our folks, it's a very strong wave amongst our young people, some of us are children, if I say, or grandchildren, to not believe in God, to be not just agnostic, but to be atheist, But I think in simple terms, if you look at this world, it is here, and it's magical, You have you have a man and a woman, and they come together, it's a perfect fit, and they produce a child. It's just like, it's a miracle, and it's just kind of astounding, Now it's springtime, it's a miraculous time of the year, Krishna says of seasons, I'm the flower-bearing spring. Everything's coming up, the dandelions, everything, asparagus, which I'm a sucker for. And everything just explodes out of the ground, and the smells come out, Right now it's the lilacs, and they're beautiful, colored. It's just an explosion. Tulips are there too. Yeah, they don't smell, but they look nice, right? And it is optimistic. It's optimistic time, for sure. So when you look at all these things that are around, a banyan tree. Has anybody ever seen a banyan tree? Not in Stouffville, you won't find them.
Back home,
But you will find them. I was in one botanical garden in Kolkata some years ago, and there was one tree that had over 1,000 trunks. You know, and the original trunk had rotted away. So you're walking through a forest, but it's one tree with all these trunks in there. So now, how did it get there? The seed. Some people just want to say, they don't want to like the word God, but divine, what is it, divine? Intelligence, divine intelligence or something like that. Nature, the universe, these are common words. And how did it get there? Was it by an accident? Like when you saw accidents, it's not very scientific. It's not very intelligent in my books. But if you say, here's something that's created, did someone create it? Yes. Look at that banner up there, Alleluia. Okay, it just happened, right? It just was there. Yes. Oh, who put it there? No one put it there. It just happened to be there. Really? You know, I mean, look at this piece of cloth here. Oh, it just happened. Just a big bang, exploded, and then bang, here you've got all this nice embroidery work, whatever you like to call it. So my way of thinking is very simple. So here's the creation. Something's created. There must be a creator, right? And it's probably a creature who did it, the creator. Creation. If this is a creation, there must be a creator. Simple as that. So some people think along those lines, on those terms, and that's the last kind. Jnani cha bharatarshava. Jnani means somebody who's just wise, just easy to sort out, easy to figure out. 4 kinds of people, chaptu, who come to the stage of loving God. So out of the 4, most likely the last one that we cited is the one that's going to be most firm about their service to God and service to humanity. And the others may be, let's say, their motivations are more subordinate. But in the end, I think we have to appreciate that it doesn't matter how you got there. You got there. It really doesn't matter. You know, you're going to a party and it's in someone's house and you've never been there before. I see a side one here. Oh, maybe we should just go through the back door. I notice there's a side door too. And there's also the front door. Anyways, take any door, as long as you get in the house. You know, just don't go through the window. People think you're weird. And so it's as long as you're there at Krishna's lotus feet, then it means that you're there and the circumstances leading to it is of not great importance. What's really important is that you're there. And there's this one example I can give you. One devotee was criticizing another. He saw a devotee in the washroom, you know, where people pass stool and urinal and maybe take a shower. And this was in like a temple circumstance, you know. We used to, in the early days, you know, rent, houses and things like that. So one devotee, he criticized the other. It was, Prabhupada, he put tilak on in the bathroom. And Prabhupada said, he put tilak on. As if to say, don't be so critical. He's making progress. He's going somewhere, you know. And devotionally, we don't want to be too critical of anybody, because that could be the beginning of your own spiritual demise. If someone is taking a shower and they're halfway through, you can't criticize, you're half dirty. You know, I'm getting clean, you know. How about your mind? You know? So as long as we're getting there, there's a famous story also told in amongst the Hindu community and the Buddhist community. You know, maybe you've heard this one too before. Two monks are walking, and they're going to the temple, and they came upon a woman who was in distress, and she just needed to cross the creek, you know. So one of the monks decided to take the lady's hand and help her across the creek so she wouldn't fall and, you know, and hurt herself and get all wet and everything like that. So she got across the creek and she was very happy. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias, or whatever. Dankjewel, merci beaucoup, whatever. All the thank yous that you can imagine. And so the second monk who didn't offer help, he was just kind of quiet, you know. And they kept walking towards the temple. And then they were near the temple, and the one who was very quiet, not willing to help, thinking, oh, I'm a single man, I'm an ascetic, and I don't touch a woman. He said, you know, there's one thing he's telling his friend, there's something that really is bothering me here. So, well, what's bothering you? He said, well, you helped that woman across the creek, and this is against protocol. We shouldn't be touching the opposite sex. And so the monk who helped out, he said, listen, you know, I helped the lady across the creek, and I just let it be. You've been thinking about her all this while until this very moment, you know. So what's in your mind? What are you thinking about, right? So our motives may be of different kinds. This acknowledges 4 different kinds of people that surrender. And it doesn't matter what is your background, you know. In fact, if you have a shaded background, you know, or a jaded background, jaded. I was looking for, you know, rhythmic or like say rhyming words, jaded and shaded. If you have that kind of a background, then this story is much more exciting than if you were born into like a pious family and you're so good, everything's so sweet and everything's so Brahminical and proper, prim and proper. A more interesting story is when someone is in the gutter and they come up and they start shining, right? It makes a better drama, right? If you wanted to put a play together. Yeah, because a good play, a good story, a good drama is when someone is very troubled, very confused, low consciousness, however you want to describe such a person, but they come out of it. They make an incredible 180 degrees turn in life. That makes a good story, right? And the best stories are those with a happy ending, right?
Yeah, we play Jagai Madai here.
Yes, Jagai and Madai. Some people might know Jagai and Madai. So the story of Jagai Madai, since we're talking about dramas, and I travel around to the different temples, and I sometimes hear devotees say, oh, Maharaj, you like dramas. We just finished doing a drama. Which drama did you do? Oh, we just did the story of Jagai and Madai. and they don't say the story of Nityananda and Haridas Thakur. They say Jagai and Madai. And it's the most popular drama across the board in ISKCON. Yeah. And I wonder why. Well, everyone likes to see a couple of people being drunk on the stage. So much fun, you know. And Jagai and Madai, they became purified, you know. Their hearts changed. They developed into something very sweet and something very nice. And that is the story of some people who came to Krishna consciousness. You know, I was looking for something. And the famous song, Amazing Grace, you must know it, right? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. And then you jump ahead. I once was lost, but now I'm found. okay? So we're all lost people, you know? And then you come to Krishna, you come to Prabhupada and say, hey, I'm doing good. It's so good to hear a story about somebody who's doing good. So we're just analyzing the different kinds of people that come to surrender, and we're looking at those different kinds of people that just can't do it, at least in this life. Maybe it might take a little bit more. But at least we should be on the path. We should start somewhere. Better late than never. Have we not heard that before?
Yeah.
If you start your bhakti when you're young, great. When you're a child, you hear about the story of Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu, you hear about Ram, you hear about Krishna. It's all so nice and sweet. But some people don't hear these stories. They don't hear the philosophy until it's almost like they're in their senior years. Oh, I love this so much. And you do meet those people sometimes. Yeah. I met Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy was a middle-aged person, and he was from the East Coast. And his sister found a Bhagavad Gita at the beach. It was in the sand. And he picked it up, and he loved it. He loved it, and then he shared it with his kids. He had like 3 sons, almost like the Kennedys, the famous Kennedys. And he would tell people, this is, normal folks, you gotta read this Bhagavad Gita. This is where it's at. In fact, it says, as it is, this is where it is. This is where, you've gotta read this. So he enthused his sons to do that. Mr. Kennedy was a really good preacher, if I can use that term. He was passionate about it. And then the last time I saw him, he was in a senior's home and he had dementia. He didn't even recognize me. It's kind of hard to see that, you know. Yeah. And in regards to that, let's say somebody does come to Krishna because it just makes so much sense. There's a creator, there's a God in control. But then they get dementia and they even forget many things. They forget names, they forget people, they forget your wife, you know, or you forget your husband. It's really sad. It's the way we have to go sometimes. Yeah. So since that is the case, it's good that we just get kind of very fixed and focused on Krishna now, so that before dementia hits, if it does, then you've got all this piety to back you up, you know, what we call good merits, you know. We have merit and demerit. Anybody who's a driver, you know what we're talking about, demerit points, right? And some of us don't drive, you know. Somebody wanted my signature to help on the opening of one of our ISKCON centers. So, well, tell Mr. John Bliss, that's my name, to bring 2 pieces of ID. So we need the passport and the driver's license. Driver's license? I gave up my driver's license. I'm the walking mug. I don't have a driver's license with my picture on it. So it's our identity is what we are. We are Krishna's devotee, if we can try to remember Krishna at the end. When our faculty measures fail us, when we're ready to go and leave this world, make our exit, it's good to just have everything as simple as possible. So we should be able to identify with a picture of Krishna. We might forget everybody else, but if we can remember Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then we'll be okay. Because you have amassed all these merit points, you know. You've got all these, what do I want to say? You got Boy Scouts on, or what do they call it? The brownies, Girl Scouts, you know, you got a checklist, you know. All these things are in your favor before, you know, physically things may go. And on that note, there was a South Indian pious king, King Kulashekar. He said, my lord, please, it might be a good idea if you take me now, because My mind is clear, you know? And when I get older, I might not remember you. You know, I might not be able to say your name, you know? And we know that Dhritarashtra in the Mahabharata, you know, he was coughing up mucus and he had the physical conditions. He couldn't speak very well. He was kind of losing it, and he was blind from birth. And Vidura told him, his younger brother, my dear brother, just get out of the palace. Palace is not the place to be. Just go. And where? North. What's north? The Himalayas. That's where the yogis go. They go to a quiet place and they just engage in meditation on the Supreme Lord. So, you know, the episode is there in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. He didn't say much, the blind king. He went out and along with his devoted wife, Gandhari, they went to the north. Might have not been an easy journey. You're blind, he's blind, and she voluntarily went blind, right? And to get around there and to just move, and you know, somebody might say that's senior citizens abuse. Tell them to leave to leave the home, you know, and to go north. But they did. They became very purified, and you know, he let everything else sort of fall behind him. His affection for his sons and all that he lost that. Jai. So those of you who come here, you've taken an interest in Krishna. How you got to this point, that's your own story. It's a good one. It's an interesting one, and you might want to share it with others. But the thing is that you got here, and that's, you know, and even if you haven't reached the highest level that you want to achieve, you're getting closer and closer to the finish line. Anybody who's in the race, you can say, I see the finish line. I see some people in front of me, and that's okay. I can say, I was in the Olympics, and that's good enough, right? I was in the Olympics. I was a good sport about it. A good sport about life. So we'll leave the next little part for your questions. And I just have to say, you know, before a couple of things. I definitely have to be at the Toronto Temple at 8 o'clock. And I just wanted to show you something. I've got a couple of books. The first one I've shown you before is called The Saffron Path. It's about my journeys across Canada, the US, and walking, you know, on foot. And it's an easy read. Makes a good Mother's Day gift if you don't have one yet, or a Father's Day gift. And this is really special. One of my godbrothers, his name is H.H Swami. He's one of Prabhupada's first disciples from New York. He wrote something called Srila Prabhupada's Kirtan Standards. It's a handbook. And like, it's offering rules and regulations on chanting. What are the things that we should chant? And what are the things we should not chant? And there's a lot there about melodies, you know, should you change the melody every 1 minute or 2 minutes? No, keep it so that everyone can follow. All kinds of good things in here in this handbook, and I'm so glad he put it down. And if you like, one day we can do a seminar on Kirtan standards. We can do that with your group here. And we probably need about, to be honest with you, about an hour and a half. You know, like an hour wouldn't be enough? Do we think we could do that sometime?
Yes, right. Yes.
Okay, it's fun, and it's just very informative, because what happens is that people bring different bhajans or mantras that are not approved by Prabhupada or Parampara, and then it gets very diluted after a while. You wonder, is this the Hare? People go, it's the Hare Krishna temple. They're not chanting Hare Krishna. What are they? You know what I mean? So all those kind of things, we can get led astray very easily. And so that's what's good about this, you know, this book. And it's not for sale. I could probably sell you one copy, but I bought books, and I want to actually give them as my Mother's Day gift or Father's Day gift is, it's coming from me. I want to give this to people who are leading kirtans. And what I've found to be very helpful is that, like we have some policies at the Toronto Temple in the past. Anybody who leads kirtan, they have to take the course. You have to sit through the seminar. We'll even give you a certificate, and we'll even give you a book. Hare Krishna. We can order more of these if you like also. So do we have any questions or comments, Prabhus?
People in
The
distress.
sound effects are really effective. I want to use it in my next play. Okay, go ahead.
People in distress, right? They know about God. They practice it, and then for some reason or the other, they are distressed and they don't believe, or they don't go to the temple. They don't get any results going to the temple. And they are having so many problems, like as you said, they could be drug addicts, or they could be doing something wrong.
Right.
They were pious, they were coming to temple, they believe in God, but then due to some reason or the other, they go follow the wrong path. How do you bring them back to, because they're not able to understand, so how do you bring them back to believing that
I think
this is the path which will help
yes,
you?
it like when people are stressed out, it's kind of like a disease, you know? And people have all multiple diseases now, you know, all kinds of troubles physically, psychologically, you know, and the doctor prescribes them something, you know? They go to the doctor because that's what you do. You go to the doctor, and the doctor, okay, here's your prescription, or here's what you do. You know, you have to cut down on eating this. You need more rest, whatever the case is, right? People in general not very good at taking advice. They're not good at following the prescription, you know? So then they come back, oh, I'm getting worse. Are you doing what I asked you to do? Well, you said, well, why don't you do what I'm asking you to do? Try that. And be sincere about it. And if you don't try that, maybe I'll have you try some other kind of, you know, panacea, some medicine. We'll try something else. So I think what we can do for people who are distressed and they're actually good-hearted people, and they kind of like give up a little bit on their spirituality, I think we have to talk about, listen, exercise some patience here, you know? And whenever we talk about patience, you're dealing with the time factor. Krishna says, I am time, destroyer of bad things. He says, of subduers I am time. He says, I am time, and time is eternal. He says it in chapter 10 and 11. 3 times he says, I am time, in the Bhagavad Gita. What more do you want? Should he say it more times? So people are kind of, let's say, stubborn. They're obstinate. And then you have to have real compassion. Listen, Prabhu, Mataji, whatever. Just be a little patient now. Be a little patient. Just keep at it, and you know, don't give up. Don't give up on your faith. You know, come and be at the place. Come to the temple where you have a support system, where you have people who care for you. And they'll come to you. They hold your hands. How are you doing now? Are you doing all right? Are things getting a little better? You know, just the empathy that comes from your friends, because you're coming to the temple where people really care about you, makes a big difference. But don't hide. Don't hide. You're not a squirrel hiding in your hole. You're a human being, you know. So just be a little patient. The good things always take time. Cheap remedies it's fast, a fast fix. But it's a good idea to call those people and let them know that the nicest people in the world are those who have faith. They have Krishna in them, and let them remember that. We can't give up on them. That's the main point. Give them your time and just beg for it. Just be a little bit patient. Be a little tolerant and be patient. Yeah, don't give up on people. You know. Don't give up. Don't be a quitter. Don't be a hoser. Don't be a loser. Of course, you can't tell them that. What did you tell me? What did you say? Thank you. Any other questions on the topic here? We have so many. We just have one little girl here today, right? Yeah. The others are Sunday school upstairs.
Prabhu, maybe
Okay.
if I can ask you a question. You talked about 4 different types. Would you mind sharing your personal story? What made you come and what has been your
Well,
route?
how many hours do you have, Prabhu?
They would only give 2 minutes, but we
Oh,
can
2
talk
minutes.
one-on-one later.
Well, I mean, I was just a curious young person. I think it was a combination of a lot of these things. I was just, trying to get my life together. I was a student and I was taking fine arts and I was just not sure how that would work for me. Is there much of a future for an artist? People kept talking about starving artists and I didn't want to starve. So I was curious. That on the top of the list, I was curious. And I saw these people, they represented a culture that has roots from India. I was always interested in India. Before I met devotees, I saw a movie, it was called 9 Hours to Ram. It's the story of the assassin of Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. It was done in the late 50s or something. And it sort of detailed what steps, in the process, I was fascinated with Indian culture, the tabla music, and I was interested in Ravi Shankar's music, and India had a richness that I could pick up on, and I was curious about it. I wanted to go a little deeper with understanding. So when I met Krishna devotees, they came to my apartment in Sudbury, Ontario, where I was just this morning. They told me all about what the culture is really all about. And at that time, India had a bad reputation. It was poor, thanks to the British. But you go there and it's an ambitious bunch of people. They're industrious. They're ambitious. They're optimistic people. It's the land of optimism. And that's what I see. And now they're not in that bracket anymore. So I said, I think I want to know more about this. We only learned about English history, British history, Canadian history, and American history. Is that all there is in the world? What about China? What about the Middle East? Can we learn about, the other people? Like, why China? Why India? The biggest problem. Why are just skimming over them? Why can't we hear about the other, all these other people that live in other parts of the world? So I was very curious and stressed a little bit about my future. And for me, it was never a problem. I believe in God. How did this beauty happen here? All these rocks and the beavers, working together to build a lodge and build a dam, Did they get in around the table and says, I think we should do it like that, and do their drawings? These miracles happen. Like, there's got to be a mystical element to society. And so it was a combination, I would say. And I did like the food. I watched devotees make chapatis, They put the roti on the flame. Whoa! And then they flip it over again. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. Well, I thank you very much for coming today. That's really terrific. And we got more or less a full house here. Thank you.
Mother's Day, I think everybody.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about mothers. Oh, but I meant to. Well, do I need to say anything? In one sense I should. But yeah, there's nobody like mother, to me it's nobody like mother, father, parents, we owe them so much, And they looked after us for 20 years, maybe 25. So oftentimes you have to return the favor when it's their end, getting close. You might have to invest a bit of quality time with them. When they become a baby again, they become smaller, weaker, not as cognizant. We have to help them. We have to return that favor. Krishna says, I'm the father and I'm the mother. He makes the claim he's the mother. Of course, every day is Mother's Day in India, every day is Father's Day, right? But at least here, you got one day where you buy a gift or something, or treat your mother to the fanciest restaurant in town and bring all the family, those kind of things. Govindus, yeah. All right, so that's about it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.